I am Amara, and I am 27 years old. But before I begin this story properly, let me take you back to where everything started. Long before awards, long before respect, long before the world learned a truth our community had hidden for generations. I grew up hearing one common warning from aunties, elders, neighbors, and even Nollywood movies: beware of stepmothers. They are wicked. It was almost like a proverb carved into the walls of our society. Everyone believed it. Everyone expected it. Everyone feared it. But before you go deeper, please like, comment, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Stories like this correct wrong ideas in society and spread light instead of darkness. Now let me take you to the very beginning, the day everything changed. It was a blistering afternoon in our small hometown of Isiala Yumuniz, a place where the sun often sat heavily on zinc roofs, making the air hot and restless. My mother, Madam Ifyananya, was in the kitchen pounding yam, her wrapper tied tightly as she hummed a soft melody. My younger brother, Kamsi, chased a stubborn rooster outside. Everything felt beautifully normal, until my father, Chief Obinna, walked in with a stiff, unusual expression. "I have something to tell everyone," he said, his voice low and serious. We all gathered, confused. My mother wiped sweat from her face and faced him directly. "Obinna, what is it?" she asked. He cleared his throat, looked at us, and dropped a sentence that shattered the air. "I am getting married again." Silence. The kind of silence that sits on your skin like cold water. My mother blinked. "Married to who?" she whispered. "A woman I'm seeing," he replied. "Her name is Seraphine." My brother stopped in mid-breath. Even the rooster he was chasing escaped freely. My mother stared at him as though trying to translate a foreign language. "Why, Obinna? What is happening? Did I offend you?" But my father gave no long explanation. Nothing emotional. Just, "I love her. She is a good woman." And that simple sentence turned our lives upside down. A few weeks later, we met Madame Seraphine. She was soft-spoken, elegant, calm, and respectful. She greeted my mother properly, bowed her head when speaking to elders, and carried herself like someone raised with values. But experience had taught us that the wicked ones always pretended at first. Neighborhood gossip flowed like river water. Aunts warned us. Women shook their heads. "Just wait. She will show her true colors," they whispered. But Seraphine surprised us. Every day. Every week. Every passing month. She cooked for us. She prayed with us. She paid attention to my school needs. She helped my mother in the kitchen. She treated my brother and me like children she had been waiting for. One evening while plaiting my hair on the veranda, she touched my shoulder gently. "Amara," she said, "not all stepmothers are evil. People just talk more about the wicked ones because evil news travels fast like dry harmattan fire." I never forgot those words. And then life changed again, this time painfully. After a few years, my mother, Madam Ifyananya, passed away. Her death was a stab straight into our hearts. People mourned deeply. Others whispered, "Now watch. The wickedness will begin." But they were wrong. Seraphine did not change. If anything, she became even more motherly, more present, more protective. She stood by us like a shield we didn't ask for, but desperately needed. She wiped our tears. She handled visitors. She organized the burial with calm strength. She held us as though we were pieces of her own soul. Months later, our home started breathing again because of her. My brother began calling her Mama Sarah. My father looked relieved, as though a heavy weight had been lifted. People continued watching, expecting evil to appear, but all they saw was consistency. Compassion. Patience. A kind of love that didn't look forced. One day I fell seriously ill while my father was away. It was Seraphine who carried me on her back at midnight when I struggled to breathe. It was she who placed cool cloths on my forehead and prayed over me until dawn. She rushed me to the hospital, and the doctor later said if she had delayed even an hour, things would have worsened. That night, as I lay weak on the hospital bed, I woke up to find her kneeling beside me whispering, "God, keep this child for me. Strengthen me to care for her like my own." Her tears dropped on my hand, and something shifted in me. That was the night I realized motherhood was not tied to blood. It was tied to the heart. The months that followed were filled with moments that healed us. She attended school meetings. She defended us when rude neighbors spoke foolishly. When an elderly woman once joked, "Sarah, you treat these children like they came from your womb," she smiled and said, "They may not have come from my womb, but they came to me through destiny." Her kindness spread beyond our home. She cooked for widows. She visited the sick. She started a small outreach for young girls in the community. People who once doubted her began praising her. She became the quiet light guiding our family through grief, confusion, and healing. And slowly, the community began to unlearn something dangerous. Stepmother does not mean wicked. Character is not tied to a title. As the months rolled into years, something incredible began to happen. Our home, once wrapped in grief, became warm again, alive again because of Seraphine. Her love wasn't loud or boastful. It was steady, gentle, and deeply rooted. The kind of love that healed without announcing itself. The kind of love that turned strangers into family. Soon, people in Isiala Yuminis started observing quietly. They expected her to slip one day, to reveal wickedness, to confirm their long-held beliefs about stepmothers. But every single day, she chose kindness again. Her reputation began to extend beyond our street. First, it was the little things, bringing bags of plantain to elderly neighbors, buying medicine for an old widower, giving clothes to children who attended church barefoot. A community grows when kindness is shared, she always said. And she lived that truth boldly. Then one Saturday morning, an incident occurred that marked the beginning of her transformation into a community figure. A young girl named Kayamika, from a neighboring compound, rushed to our gate in tears. She was small, frail, and looked as though life had beaten her more than her age ever could. Her father had flogged her harshly for breaking a cup. Without hesitation, Seraphine rushed outside, lifted the trembling girl into her arms, and brought her into the house. "You are safe here, my child," she whispered, wiping her tears gently. Later that day, Kayamika's father stormed into our compound, shouting angrily. People gathered, expecting drama. They loved chaos, especially when it involved stepmothers. But Mama Sarah stepped outside with calm dignity and said, "Brother, she is a child, not a goat. Correct her with love, not anger." The man froze. People froze. You could hear silence move across the compound like a wind. They weren't used to seeing a stepmother speak with such courage and tenderness. That single moment changed everything. Parents started bringing their troubled children to her. Women came to seek advice. Even men approached her for counsel. She became a bridge, a safe place, a wise voice. Another unforgettable day was at church, during a women's fellowship meeting. The topic was stepmothers and their role in the home. Painful stories filled the room. Many women spoke with bitterness, tears, and resentment. The atmosphere was heavy. When they finished, Seraphine stood slowly. She wasn't dramatic. She wasn't loud. She simply said, "Do not judge a stepmother by her title. Judge her by her heart. A child deserves love, not because they came from your body, but because they came from God." Her words sank deep into the room. Even the pastor's wife wiped her eyes. 3 women later confessed they went home to apologize to their stepchildren that same evening. Some hugged their stepchildren for the first time in years. Her words carried power, the kind that comes from lived experience, not theory. Soon, the church officially recognized her and invited her to lead a new initiative called the Harmony Families Circle. Under her guidance, they visited troubled homes, mediated conflicts, and taught families how to rebuild trust. Slowly, households that had been broken for years started healing. In almost every success story, one sentence echoed. Mama Seraphine told us. One afternoon, the community leader, Chief Mbakwe, visited our house. He was an elderly man with a strong voice and a staff carved from Irako wood. "Madam Seraphine," he said, "your work has reached my ears many times. We want to honor you." She tried to decline politely. Humility was part of her DNA, but he insisted. A ceremony was organized at the town hall. People traveled from nearby villages. Children danced. Women clapped. Men nodded in deep respect. They presented her with a plaque that read, "For love, service, and exceptional motherhood, Isiala Yumuni's Award." My father cried openly that day. He held her hand and whispered, "I chose well." And the truth was undeniable. He did. But the recognition didn't stop there. A few weeks later, the local radio station in Agueda invited her for an interview on a program titled Changing the Mindset. I still remember the excitement in the house that morning. My brother polished his shoes as though he were the one appearing on air. My father ironed her dress twice. I held her hand as we entered the studio. The host asked, "Madam Seraphine, how did you become the most celebrated stepmother in the region?" She chuckled shyly and said, "I didn't set out to become anything. I only set out to love." Her words stunned everyone. The phone lines buzzed. Caller after caller praised her. "Because of you, I apologized to my stepmother after 5 years. You have changed my mind about stepmothers. Thank you for teaching us love. Tears streamed down her face as she listened. 1 week later, journalists visited the house. 2 weeks later, a women's conference invited her as a guest speaker. 3 weeks later, a Christian organization honored her with a Beacon of Peace award. Her influence spread like dawn light over fields that had been dark for generations. Despite this new attention, Seraphine remained the same. She swept the compound every morning. She prepared meals. She prayed with us every night. She corrected us gently when we misbehaved. She never acted like a celebrity. She never lost herself. One evening on the veranda, I asked, "Mama Sarah, does all this attention overwhelm you?" She smiled. "Amara, fame means nothing if your home lacks love. You and Kamsi are my priority." Her words sank deep. She wasn't raising us casually. She was shaping us, molding our hearts, teaching us the kind of love that transforms generations. And she wasn't just teaching us. She was teaching the world. Because in a society that painted stepmothers with one dark brush, Seraphine became a living testimony that goodness exists, quiet, powerful, undeniable. Her story was no longer just ours. It belonged to everyone who needed hope. As the years continued unfolding like the petals of a stubborn flower finally opening, life in our household grew even more beautiful under Seraphine's gentle leadership. The warmth she brought into our home never dimmed. In fact, it multiplied. She was the kind of woman whose presence could quiet storms, whose smile could heal unspoken wounds. By this time, everyone in Isiala Yumuni's knew her story. How she entered a home scarred by grief, how people doubted her, how society waited eagerly for her downfall, only to watch her rise with grace instead of bitterness. But what they admired most was that her love remained consistent. Every morning she woke us up softly, calling us by our pet names. Every evening she asked how our day went, and actually listened. Even after all the recognition and fame, she still cooked our meals, still corrected us lovingly, still taught us lessons that shaped our character. Her humility was not an act, it was her nature. Eventually, her influence began spreading beyond Yumunese. Schools across Imo State started using her story as a teaching tool for young children. Teachers told pupils that love was not defined by blood, but by the heart. Posters with her smiling face hung in classrooms, community halls, libraries, and even small health centers. People from faraway towns like Ohaji, Ikeduru, and Asana traveled just to meet her. Some came seeking advice on blended families. Others sought healing from painful childhood experiences. A few simply wanted to see the woman who had changed an old narrative. One bright Saturday morning, I found her tending the flowers in her small garden. The roses, hibiscus, and lilies she planted years ago had grown tall, blooming beautifully like a living reflection of her impact. I walked up to her and said, "Mama Sarah, do you know you're a blessing to this family and to the whole state?" She paused, turned to me with that familiar gentle smile, and replied, "Amara, love becomes easier when you give it freely. Children are God's gifts. If you want God to bless you, you must treat his gifts with care." Her words settled deep in my heart. They were more than wisdom, they were truth. And sometimes I wondered what our lives would have looked like if she had never stepped into our home. Would we have healed? Would my brother and I have grown into peaceful adults? Would our home ever have known unity again? I didn't want to imagine that alternative world, because it made me realize even more that she was heaven sent. As time moved forward, something remarkable took place. The Imo state government decided to honor women making positive impacts in blended families, and Seraphine's name topped the list. A grand ceremony was organized at the Owerri Civic Center, attended by government officials, traditional leaders, pastors, teachers, influencers, and families from different towns. On the day of the event, she wore a simple but elegant turquoise lace gown. My older cousin helped tie her geli perfectly. When we arrived at the Civic Center, the crowd erupted in applause. Some women ululated joyfully. Others wiped tears from their eyes. The respect in the hall was overwhelming, earned, deserved, undeniable. When her name was called, she stepped forward gracefully. The announcer lifted a microphone and said, "The Imo State Role Model Award, Best Stepmother of the Year, goes to Madam Seraphine Obinna, a woman whose love has reshaped our society's understanding of family." The applause shook the hall. Cameras flashed rapidly. My father cried openly, not with shame, but with pride. He kept whispering, "I chose well. I chose well." When Mama Sarah took the microphone, She spoke with humility so deep it melted the room. She said, "Being a stepmother does not make you a stranger. It means God trusted you with a child who came through destiny, not through your womb. I am not special. I am simply a woman who believes that motherhood is rooted in love, patience, and responsibility." Her words brought the entire hall to its feet. People shouted blessings. Others nodded with respect. The applause felt endless. After the ceremony, journalists approached her. One asked, "Madame Seraphine, how do you feel being celebrated like this?" Her answer became a national headline. "It is not about me. It is about changing the story for the next generation. If one woman chooses to love her stepchild because of this award, then my mission is complete." That statement went viral. Churches used it in sermons. Social workers used it in seminars. Even film producers from Asaba contacted her, eager to create a movie inspired by her life. She laughed shyly and said, "Let God decide." A few weeks later, a government representative arrived at our home with stunning news. They wanted to place a billboard of her across the major highways of Imo State. The billboard read, "Best stepmother in Imo State. Not all stepmothers are wicked. Treat your stepchildren with love." A message inspired by Madame Seraphine. Whenever we drove past it, people stopped to take photos. Some children waved at her picture. Adults pointed and whispered, "God bless this woman." The billboard wasn't just an advertisement. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that stereotypes can be broken when truth walks boldly. Despite her fame, Seraphine remained unchanged. She kept the same daily routine. She never bragged. She never felt too important to sweep, cook, pray, or comfort. Her life was her message, not her awards. Years later, when I married and had my first child, I brought my baby to her. She held the child tenderly and said, "Your mother would be proud of you, and so am I." Tears filled my eyes. She didn't replace my mother. She honored her memory by loving us deeply. Today, when people ask about my stepmother, I smile with pride and say, "My stepmother is a good woman. She changed our home. She changed our community. She changed Imo State. She proved that love can heal what society has destroyed. She proved that titles don't determine character, hearts do." If Madame Seraphine's story touched your heart, remember this. Love heals. Kindness transforms. One good heart can rewrite the narrative for a whole generation. Please like, comment, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from.